Hello everybody. Lovely to see you all out here, especially on a rather chilly Sunday morning. So, like always, I normally sit like the evening before to see what I'm going to talk about or what comes up. And then I make some notes, and then on the way here I make some more notes as my hubby is chauffeuring me. And then I sit here, and then the energy in the room is kind of like, nah, we do something different. So we do something different. So, and this is the beauty about spirit and energy. It constantly matches to where we are and what is, and not necessarily what we plan and what we want. And that's exactly what it is. And this is what pretty much came through like in the last 15, 20 minutes that I was sitting here is we kind of like need to get away. We don't need to. We don't have to do a thing. It's the beauty of free will. But we would have much easier daily experience if we would get a bit more away of what should be, what could be, what I wanted to be, what I had it planned to be, as in like, what is it? Where am I? Is it really that bad? It's different. Does it mean it's not in my favor? It's not matching what I had in view, what I had as in a vision. I mean, let's face it, like the last, I'm not good in standing still, so so let's face it, the last 2 years, nobody had that in a plan. Nobody planned any kind, well, some might have planned it, but most people didn't get the memo about it, about what was going on, that the whole world would be upside down, that we have to deal with such restrictions, that we had to deal, that we had, most of all, had to look at everything and everyone who we are within that. Who we are in our daily kind of normal ways of dealing with ourselves, with our loved ones, with our lives, what we took for granted, what we didn't take for granted, what we paid attention to, that we didn't pay attention to ourselves, what kind of relationships we had in our lives and with ourselves. Now, all of a sudden, who are we when we cannot just walk out and do what we want? That became a very difficult point. And then there was this anger and there was this resentment. And it has to find its place. Everything is energy. And then we had the riots, and then we had the floods, and then there is more. And why that was all the resistance to what is. That's not the deal. That's not what I signed up for. That's not what I worked towards to. That's unfair. I played my cards right, so I'm supposed to have a different outcome. It's supposed to be like this and not like that. If I do right, they have to do right. So there was a lot of, and of course the outside influences of it. The constant kind of like, you can't do this, you have to do that. And then we were too forced to do it even, because now different incomes, different circumstances. We had to challenge ourselves. But then there is this, okay, it's not as planned, but was everything bad about it? What did we learn from it? How did we grow in it? And yes, sometimes growth comes with a lot of resistance, and we have to kind of like drag ourselves through it, but we come out on the other side and kind of like, darn, if I would have not been exposed to this, I would have not learned that, I wouldn't have grown into this, and I would have not known that I can stretch myself into extremes like this, and I'm still here, and I'm still standing. All of us are still here. That's fact. So our survival rate is 100%. So well done, and I think we overlook how far we've come. Some of us are more battered and bruised than others, but all of us got through it. No doubt about that. And it does not take away that it had different kind of impact on different people. But how we're experiencing it in the right here, right now, from here onwards, and right through as well, but from here onwards, it's on us. And yes, we have a shitty government, and we have some shitty people, and we have some whatever. There's always something that's not going to be how we want it. Because all we have ever influence on is who we are in connection to. And as nice as this would be, if the rest of the world would kind of match that, it's just not how it works. And quite frankly, if everybody would be as nice, as wonderful as we think, their idea of nice and wonderful differs greatly. So who's right and who is wrong about which kind of nice and wonderful is the right one? There's no wrong and right. And again, people, when you go like, oh, there is wrong and right, and there is laws, and there is rules, and there is this and that. Yeah, sure. I mean, alone as one of the hottest topics the last few years and still are is the vaccine thing. You can't make me, but you should. No, you shouldn't. It split families. Why? Because different opinions cannot be taken and accommodated without it becoming personal. And that just really showed who are we as humans within that? Who are we as an individual within that? It's not about the vaccine. I'm just using it as an example. It was about why can I not allow someone else to make their decision within what they believe, and they are fully aligned with that. And who am I to decide that what I believe is superior to what the person next to me believes? It doesn't matter if I'm pro or con or whatever. It really does not matter. Where's my belief of superiority coming from? And why am I entitled to that? I've still got the right to do what I want obviously within reason. And as long as the intent is right, but I have no right to judge the next person of having the liberty to do the same. Now again, if my happiness insists on how my husband does matches me or not, it ain't my hubby's or anybody else's fault, that's mine. I'm setting the standard of like, now I'm only as happy or unhappy depending on how he reacts. Quite frankly, that's none of my business. I can decide who I am in connection to him. I have no right to decide who he is, or who the government even is, who my neighbor is. So we have to bring it back home. And I actually want to say we have to take responsibility for that. Of course, I'm not saying let's be blind to it and not take responsibility for what's out there. If there's injustices, yes, of course, speak up for it, be part of it. But you can't say I'm only going to have a good life, a happy life, a balanced life, or start owning my life once that is done. I promise you the world will never be done sorting itself out. And especially after the last 2-3 years, we've been taught that we are in survival mode. And we had to be in a certain extent, by all means. But we've got to snap out of this survival mode and start getting into living mode. And we've forgotten how to do that. Initially, when we were all locked up for the first 6 weeks, remember those 6 weeks? And everybody was, oh my God, everybody wanted to go jogging. They didn't even have techies. Everybody wanted to go jogging. They've never put foot on the road. Everybody all of a sudden wanted to get dogs, because initially we were allowed to walk dogs. Now 2 years later, nobody wants to come out. Half the nation is antisocial. And I was like, it's okay being antisocial if it suits you, if it balances you, have it. But if you're sitting at home being miserable, then it's your job to change that. So this is like, let's start living and let's take responsibility for our living, our happiness, our balance, and our grumpiness levels in that. But nowadays when you go and speak to people, it's like, how are you doing? No, I'm good. But you know, every second person, you know, this country's going to a ball of, oh really? So what are you doing about it? Why are you here? And what's happening? And every time we repeat it, we feed what we don't want. We pay way more attention to what we don't want than what we do want. And every time we deposit into it. This is not right. That isn't right. That sucks. That's not right. They are corrupt. These are corrupt. And why do you deposit into it? It's kind of like sponsoring the mafia. Every time we speak about it. But it's my mafia. Because if I don't sponsor them, what's the alternative? I have to somehow either feed the opposite and consciously decide not to be part of it. Does not mean ignoring it. Does not mean not being aware of it. But stop feeding what you don't want. And that goes with the thoughts, with the conversations, with being part of it. And again, because we've been more exposed to it than ever over the last few years, it's become second nature. Try it out when you meet any of your friends or family members. What makes you happy? Okay, what really frustrates you? There comes the list. Because that's what we started to look at and being trained at, because we were told at the top of it all the last few years, watch out for this, watch out for that, you can't do this. We've been trained to look at what we are not allowed to do, what we cannot have, what we shouldn't, all the shouldn'ts. So after 2 years, that's how our brain works. Even neuroscience on it and all of that. Our trained to look for everything. Our brain for everything we don't want. And then we keep on concentrating and depositing, feeding the brain mafia that gives us everything we don't want and wonder why it doesn't go away. And then we go, but why I'm so unhappy? What I get a lot when people come to me for sessions is like, I feel so stuck. Okay, why? Stuck is no here, no there. Stuck is neutral. Stuck can be a good stuck. It just means something isn't quite feeling right for you. Good, let's see what kind of not feeling right. Stuck can be like, I'm in a transition thing, we're waiting between 2 flights. It's not a bad stuck. Go get a coffee, wait for it. Good, that's a good stuck. But that stuck means like, I know exactly what I don't want, but I haven't put much kind of thing into what I do want. We don't know what we want. But we want to have the outcome of feeling that way. When people say like, I really am happy and unbalanced, and like, okay, what do you think is the cause of that? They are all name outside things. It's my husband, it's my job, it's my wife, it's my kids making whatever decisions, it's the neighbor, it's a nuisance, this, that, and next thing. What are you doing about it? Oh, I'm just keep on telling him to do this, and if she doesn't do that, and then he doesn't do that, so what are you doing? Entertaining it. The whole thing, how we experience life, is an inside out, not an outside in. We need to switch that. Otherwise, it's like, of course, we can spend an entire life on trying to orchestrate the life around us. But if this is where we get our balance from and our happiness from and our being fulfilled or whatever, we're never going to get it like, I feel I'm stuck. Because then how we feel is always going to be in the hands and in the actions of others. That's a rotten deal because you never know who those others are and what they are up to. Mm. And you have no control over it because you yourself can't balance it. It's impossible. We need to own it. And the thing with that is as well, it's a catch-22. Because people are like, oh, I know I'm that and that, but if he doesn't do that, then I can't do that. I'm like, oh, so you're in reaction, so he or she must start that you can react right. That's a cupid. That's a cupid. It's kind of like he shot first, that's why I shot second. Okay, why is there a gun in your hand? Because in case he shoots. Oh, why you're around people that shoot. So it's like we need to be honest with ourselves and we need to look at that. So when we are not happy, I said it's a good thing. Not because I want everybody to be unhappy, but because it's an indicator that we're not really aligned, that we can look at something. It's like a dashboard light. It says oil light. It's great because then you don't have to dissect the whole car finding what's wrong. It actually shows you exactly where to look. And now you have choices regarding the oil. You can call hubby, you can go to the garage, you can do whatever. It's like, but you know exactly what to look at. It's not just, oh, something in this car isn't right and I don't know what. It shows you exactly where it is. Now you can have choices. Or you can argue with the dashboard light. It's normally what we do. I shouldn't be unhappy. I have that, and that. I should be grateful. Yeah, you can still be grateful for that you have a car, but you would still in your interest to make sure that this light goes off because you want to keep the car. We have to solve, but I need to be grateful for what I have. You can still be grateful and want growth. Being grateful does not mean you don't want to grow. It's kind of like be grateful that you're in grade 1. Yeah, it does not mean I don't want to go to grade 2, 3, 4, 5 and have my trick one day. We have, and especially when we have those circumstances of where we had this whole pandemic or out of really kind of extreme circumstances, we have this whole, let's not make a move, let's not grow. We are in this whole preservation mode. People that are utterly unhappy in their jobs and whatever, but I'm not going to make a move. Why? You hate it, you're unhappy, you've been mistreated, you're being underpaid. Why not? Because others lost it. There's always going to be people that lost their job in your entire life. What changed is your belief. There's still an economy. It changed tremendously, but there's still an economy because there's still people that have some kind of economy. Is it rearranging? Yeah. But what changed is what we believe we are within that, because we became in reaction to love instead of being smack bang in the middle creating it. So this is about living life again. Taking responsibility and with it also having more fun with it. Yes, there will be moments when it really sucks. That's okay, that's part of it. Have those moments and then also when you have them, because everything has its place as well, don't live in them. They're part of it. Not everything is rose-colored and wonderful, as we discovered very clearly, but we need to look more at what we do want instead of what we don't want. We stop dreaming and making plans. Go a few years back, or like even in our childhood, I'm going to be a pilot, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and now it's kind of like, let me just get to Friday. At most to the end of the month, and hopefully I can pay my bills. This is kind of like, and all of it is the built on the fear of like, I'm not going to have enough energy because we're not doing anything for ourselves to recharge. Everything is like, I want to avoid being not able to pay the bills. I want to avoid running short. I want to avoid losing my job. I want to avoid losing my head. I want to avoid be in avoidance mode. And that's fear-based, and that is utterly exhausting. So we don't even dare making plans there anymore. First, we don't even believe if the world still exists at time. Secondly, if we don't make long-term plans, then we can't get disappointed, nor can we fail. That is like, what is the whole life thing about? We need to make plans. We need to start living. We have to have, and we don't have to have the smallest details of it. It's kind of like you want to go to a holiday in Europe. At least put the pin on the country. You don't have to have the daily itinerary. But if you want to go to Italy, say Italy. And if you go this way or that way, if you go by a submarine, if you go by an airplane, it really doesn't matter. But put the pin on Italy. Because if you don't know where you're going, you ain't going to get there. And where is your measuring stick, how far you've gotten? Because your brain right now gives you where you're not at yet. And you know what? Since you haven't put the pin, you don't know. You're never going to get there. You don't know. It's like I came from Hillcrest this morning, and if I wouldn't have known I'll go to Maritzburg, I wouldn't have known how far I am and how long it's still going to take me. I would have never gotten there. We all said, like, I know, I'm trying. We must stop trying. And I know that sounds weird. Because when I speak to people, it's like, no, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And it's like, okay, I would like you to take a bit more time for you. And people go, because we're human doers, we're not human beings. We're very good with providing that for others. But when it's for us, we don't know what we need, what we want, and how to do that. We're overwhelmed by it. If I ask people, okay, what would your partner or your kids or the neighbor, even the cat or the dog need to feel better? They give it to you like that. What would you need to feel better? As long as my kids are okay, not your kids, you, just you. Not as a mom, not as a partner, not as a daughter, just you. As a person, what would you need? I'm happy with my family. No, not second-hand happiness, your own. I don't know. And then I say to that person, please take some time out. And now that becomes the danger zone. Because I don't know who I am if I don't feed into other people. And that is, I'm not making fun of it. It is really something that people get overwhelmed with. It is really an overwhelming space. And we need to start making friends with that space. I said, take little bubbles with it. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here. But what is it? Before I was a mom, before I had all those kind of roles, or a dad or a brother or whatever it is, before I started defining myself by something that I added on, what was it that made me happy? Or what will it be now? It might be a bubble bath. It might be going for a run. Well, in my case, it will never be that. But it might be playing with my dogs. It might be just reading a book. It might be having a nap. It might be doing something arty. It does not matter. But if I don't try and find out, I won't know. And the next thing is, don't you dare feel guilty when you do that. That's the next thing. We feel guilty when we do things for ourselves because we have to be of use. It's kind of like saying filling petrol into your car is a selfish thing. And then what we do the next thing is like, okay, I take time out for myself once I've done that. Oh, it's kind of like saying to your car, once you arrive in Joburg, I give you some petrol. It makes no sense. That's our fuel. It's not a reward. It's our fuel. And then we wonder when we're so burned out. I mean, there's never been more depression, anxiety, burnouts, sleeping issues than we have now, ever, even in youngsters. Energy is contagious. So this whole, I'm trying to make more time for me, I want to say do it. Because we use our language according to what's important. When I say to you, like, for example, oh, your kid would need some attention with it. Okay, I'm on it, I will do it. Ooh, the language changed very quickly. There's no ifs or buts or maybe. When I say, please take some time out here, I will try. Oh, no. I will try. There's already 5 back doors open. We don't do back doors. We need to also watch the language on that. It becomes very vague when it comes to us. It becomes very clear when it becomes about others. So this is about doing life and doing it for you, because whatever goes in you comes out. Whatever is in you infiltrates in every area of your life. One of my favorite things to say to people is get full of yourself. Because the more you get full of yourself, the more you know how to refill it, and the more you know what comes out. Half of the time we don't even know what we're full of, yet we all constantly bring it to others if we know it or not. Get full of yourself and know what goes in, and refill generously. Have a few more cho-cho tanks of you around somewhere, because that's what you need, because this is why we are so run down at the moment. So this is about have plans, have dreams, see where you want to go to, look at what you do want, not what you don't want. And please get full of yourself. The more the better. And if it overflows, even better, because then you have some backup to it as well. But this is really about living again. This is about going to, standing in, and not being in reaction to life. We are all interconnected. We might just as well participate in it and actually lead the parade instead of just trotting behind and trying to keep up. It is literally, everything is neutral until we attach something to it. And yes, some days are harder than others. I'm not in any way or form disputing that. But at the end of the day, how we experience it, it's up to us. And we need to start owning that again. Thank you.